The Shift with Regina Manyara.
Artist communication, just for your information, is that the government's spokesperson office is considered the voice between the state and the citizens. So tonight on The Shift, we focus on how this office is balancing clarity with credibility, truth with trust in the wake of information overload, misinformation and disinformation. Is government's message getting through? Tonight, live from KBC Gardens, we unpack the state of government communication through the lens of Deputy Government Spokesperson Gabriel Muthuma. This is The Shift, and I am Regina Manyara. Before we get the bottle rolling, my colleague Khalid Abdullahi shines a spotlight on the court of public opinion on what Kenyans think regarding the 5 pillars under the bottom-up transformation agenda. What does Wanjiko say? Over to you, Khalid.
Strategic communication is very crucial for any organization or even government. For the last 2 years, government ministries have endeavored to fulfill their mandate according to the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto. But the question is, has the government effectively communicated about their plans, progress and initiatives to the public? Let's hear what Kenyans have to say.
It's quite challenging that I think we have seen some issues, some moments that people lack the information simply because maybe the information is gazetted on a Kenya Gazette, but some people are hardly accessing that information. Or even you find that the information has been maybe passed but not to the public because maybe through a channel that may not easily reach to the main grassroots information.
In Geshogo Affordable Housing, we usually have around 160 workers per day. People that have benefited from this project are the Njuakali sectors, where fabrication of the doors, steel, and flash doors have been done by the Njuakali sector. We also have people who cook for the workers, the mama bogas, who have benefited from this project.
Hii mradi inanisaidia kwa sababu watu wa hiyo boma wanakuja huku kukula. Kwa hivyo kazi yangu iko juu, tunawapikia.
Huu mradi umeniwezesha kulipia watoto wangu karo na kuseti mradi wa kuku.
Nimefanya hapa kazi karibu miezi 4. Na hiyo miezi michache hiyo imeleta tofauti kubwa sana kwa maisha yangu na hata kwa maisha ya jamii yangu. Saizi watoto kwa shule hawawezi fukuzwa. Chakula inapatikana.
Na mimi ndio supplier ya hii material. Na kwa wiki naweza supply kama 7 trip. Lakini leo naona ndio inanisaidia.
Nilikuwa wa kwanza kuweka hii maji na imenisaidia kwa njia kubwa sana kwa sababu mimi kwangu nimekuwa nimeipiga na mateke kwa sababu saizi kwangu hakuna kitu ninanunuaga. Kuhoa ninauza doma naipeleka kwa soko, hata avocado inatoka tu kwa hii shamba. Kwa hivyo mimi kuhusu fees sizumbukagi hata kidogo. Huwa ninanisaidia kabisa kwa sababu nikiingia tu kwa shamba hata kama sikuwa na pesa, wewe ukuje ukiwa mnunuzi, dakika kidogo ninajipata nikiwa na kitu ya kuweza kurudisha mtoto kwa shule.
Mbeleni kuna eka moja nilikuwa nalima, ninatoa ngunia 6, 7, 8. Lakini hii labda hata wale wakulima tumekuwa na wao karibu season zinafika 5 hivi, eka moja ninatoa 23 bags za mahindi.
Tangu hiyo serikali ya mheshimiwa yule mkuu kabisa William Samoei Arap Ruto aanze kuchukua hatamu, tumeona mafanikio mazuri sana, tena mengi tu, maana tumepata wasaa wa kulima na tumepata muda wa kutumia ule ambao tulikuwa tunaharibu tukienda sehemu nyingi kutafuta biashara. Lakini sasa hivi biashara ni moja, ni mkulima wa mpunga.
For the last 2 years, we have seen a lot of stuff happening, and we've been asking ourselves as Kenyans, is these actions really intended for the common good of the Mwananchi? But I think in terms of the opportunities that we have seen from the political angle, it's really been very exclusive. It's been gender blind, because we've not seen the place of women in this cabinet. We've not seen the place of women in this government.
This government, ambayo government tuko nao sahi hapa hivi, what I can say, improve kwa vitu mob sana kabisa. At first ilikuwa at low rate, but hiyo pressure mingi kuangalia kwa ground, unajua, because many zile gava zingine ziko zinatupa tu do aziangali ground, but sahi what I can say, kwa hii gava ya sahi wanaangalia ground.
Those are the sentiments we have managed to gather from Kenyans. My name is Khalid Abdullahi. Back to you, Regina Manyara.
Thank you, Khalid, for that particular feedback. So, Deputy Government Spokesperson, what's your immediate reaction to what Kenyans are saying?
Regina, thank you. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me. I am honored, as I am, delighted to join with you on the set this evening. First of all, you hear, obviously, one thing that has come out very clearly is, and this I tell people, is that we are not where we used to be. We may not be where we want to be, but definitely not where we used to be. And to me, that gives me the comfort that I need to just know that we are heading in the right direction.
So we are shifting, or rather we are progressing.
Oh, totally.
So you too, you can be part of this conversation on our big question tonight. We ask you, in your view, what is the difference between public information and propaganda? In your view, what is the difference between public information and propaganda? You can share your feedback on X at KBC Channel 1, on Facebook at KBC Channel 1. My X handle is at Ray Manyara, and we are going to be sampling your views. So before we begin this conversation, we ran a poll, an opinion poll, and where we had asked you to think, do you think the line between government information and propaganda is clear? So this is what we asked you on our social media platforms. And these are the results. The question was, let me take that again. We had asked you, do you think the line between government information and propaganda is clear? This is how you polled. 23.3% said yes. However, no garnered 66.7%, while 10% of Wanjiko during this particular poll were not so sure. Deputy Spokesperson, what do you think about this? Why do you think Kenyans feel this way?
First of all, allow me to take you back for, where the yesteryears were and where we are today. Because if you want to know exactly the challenges we face today, you have to use that adage Bob Marley said, he sang it very well. If you want to know where you're going, you must know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And so, I was just reminded the other day, I was having a conversation with somebody, how we used to even do letters, how I needed to communicate to you probably when you're in university. I would write, get a full scarf, write what I wanted to say to you, fold that letter, put it in an envelope, get a stamp, go all the way to the post office, post it, wait a few days, it gets to you, so that I'm just giving you,
where we were.
Where we are and now.
Yeah.
Today things, it's a complex, web of information. Like you said, eloquently put it, it's a struggle that all of us are going through. Not government, not whether you want to call it civil society, all of us find ourselves in this unique environment where everybody is struggling to know what are the facts, what is the truth, who has this truth. What we say today as government, it's checked, fact-checked by so many people. But at the same time, like you heard our viewers, they are saying, there are things that we can tell are happening, and we can even track this and call it success. Yet at the same time, depending on who you ask, you'll actually think the government is doing zero. or communicating zero.
So now, there's this, I'm sure you've come across this question. So is your office a spin doctor when it comes to communication?
No, I don't think we are spin doctors. What we do actually, we get facts, raw data, and we pass it out there. We are not in the business of creating spin. We are not in the business of creating propaganda. However, sometimes we are taken aback by some of the things that we have to counter. And this one I can tell you of contradiction. We feel sometimes, give or take, somebody probably who we can tell does not have the correct information. That's one. Probably you'd like to engage further and tell them, you know, you're misinformed here. But we've also seen the rise of very influential people who are given a platform to disinform. And, you know, yes, it's the reality we are living in, but we also must ask, these times that we have accepted, who is the gatekeeper? Because let's face it, we are struggling to give you the right information. And the same way we are struggling, somebody else is seated somewhere pretty, doing all they can, not to misinform, but to disinform.
Okay.
And somebody the other day was asking me, hey, Gabriel, what's the difference? Every time you're talking about the misinformation.
And they asked the right question, because I wanted
yeah.
to know what specific then strategies is your office applying, you know, to counter this misinformation without appearing to be partisan or stifling free speech?
I mean, actually, Regina, very good question. First of all, you see, misinformation can be understood and not condoned. Yeah? I can come and misinform you something. I misinform or say something that I had, I have not verified, and take it across. In information, somebody, it's a good conversation we usually have in the office. Information that you can't use or transfer is gossip, right? And you can do that without knowing. That's misinforming. But what we find that turns into propaganda is the disinformation aspect, because this is somebody who knows, they may actually know the truth, but they'll deliberately make all attempts available to disinform deliberately. So, and that's where things get edgy, because some of these people may be influential.
So how are you countering this?
So the best we can do, and the resources available, is we've come up with strategies. Key among them is the success stories that you've had. By the way, we've realized nobody can tell that story better than one who is living it. And yes, Regina, I can admit that even with the challenges that are present, we are always reminding ourselves that we should not retreat or be intimidated by our shortcomings, as an office or as government, because of the shortcomings within. What we must always do, we must accept that there are shortcomings, even in the locales that we serve. But we must always thrive to inform the best way we know how. Because given that arena where you allow people to deliberately disinform, you're only going to create an army of propagandists. And sometimes, like I said, when you deliberately disinform, that information you may think will, it's like a boomerang. I keep insisting
it will come back to you.
It will come back to you.
Now, you've mentioned two things, Muthuma. You've said that these people, especially on social media platforms, happen to be influential.
Correct.
But there are critics of government who've come out and say that government, allegedly, is also employing influencers to counter the propaganda online. What is your take on that?
Yeah, that has been said. It has been there. I know key people who have been within government and without government who will come and say, I need this story or I need this set of information told far and wide. And you can use people or influencers of goodwill. For instance, and this is an example I'm giving you.
So is it a yes or a no? Are we using?
No, they have been there. We've used people for good.
For good.
I need this information to get to this, particular population or this particular group of people. I can use students of goodwill, for example, and tell them, it appears people are not understanding a subject like SHA. These are the facts. So what you're doing in reality is arming people with correct information, and you can never beat that, because it also gives you, Regina, it gives you an arm to question disinformers. And you tell them, hey, wait a minute, you are saying, you're talking about the 5,000 bags of fertilizer that was bad. Well, the government did not deny. But what you're failing to understand is you nearly had 5 to 6 million farmers who got good fertilizer. So if you're going to triangulate that into a percentage, you will find it's 0.0 something. Yet, where we've dwelt on
is on the
the
negatives.
5 bags of fertilizer. You get.
In communication, you're a communicator. Blood cells. The negative always carries.
Yes, truth before it wears their pants. That's what we say.
Now, one would question that: why do we need to have these citizens of goodwill push the agenda, yet we have a fully fledged office that is mandated to disseminate this information?
Regina, good question. We can never reach everybody, even with the mediums that we use. But what we can do is, just like even in the olden days, you will find information was communicated, linear, from the top, in a pyramid way. The authority communicates, it's taken, it's sieved downwards, and it reaches the person machinani. It is the very same thing, all right? Whether you're talking about using influencers, whether you're talking about using teachers on the ground who are able to explain the funding model, whether you are reaching out to community health promoters, to better explain, the advantages of SHA, they are also influencers in a way, all right? So I think what needs to come out clear is we may not pay these people, but in one way or the other, they may be part of that particular body of information. They may know better because they are on the ground, and they can also communicate back to us and tell us, guys, I think we need to change this and address it in such a way. And that's why I told you, we cannot be afraid of imperfections, all right? We are not saying that we are running a well-oiled machine that is reaching each and every person. We would want that to happen, but we also have to be alive to the facts that as much as we try, we also need Kenyans of goodwill who will have that patriotism of understanding that it takes everyone, to achieve something meaningful.
So how do you balance transparency and accountability to citizens, when you're promoting government policies then?
Again, very good question. We've been going through a phase of everything that we say, everything that somebody says, then I've had it. Whether you're looking at it on the elected leaders or people within, the public service, you've gone to a place where you are explaining something to someone, and from the back, you'll hear somebody saying uongo. Yeah, and I know that's something also you've dealt with. And then you start wondering, what have I said in, for example, housing? And I'll give you an example of the place we went in Homa Bay. where this woman was telling us the domino effect or effects of that particular program in Homa Bay. She would tell us that she never thought she would afford a house. But now, that dream is being realized by her working at the site. She has actually made good money to assist her invest in a one-bedroom house.
So they're positives.
So it's not only positive, it's what I'm telling you, that the transparency communicated by the people living it can never get any better. So, and that's what we are trying to do. When we bring information to you and tell you these are the facts on the ground, we can allow you to counter that if you go to the ground and come back and tell us, hey, by the way, Bwana Muthuma ama hii ofisi ya msemaji wa serikali, those houses don't exist. Then there we can have a conversation.
We found government having to respond to this kind of, feedback, as you call it, especially on social media. And the big question is government trying to limit the use of social media with the current proposed amendments, especially on the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Amendment Bill of 2024? What would you say? There's some critics who have argued that.
You see, at the end of the day, there are things that will go through Parliament. They will be subjected to public participation, the making of a bill. They will go through the whole charade of how you make that bill and how you pass that bill. But I don't think, I've not heard, neither have I seen, people sitting down to curtail the rights that Kenyans have in using social media. However, allow me to be quick to point that with the sophisticates of the internet comes a lot of responsibility. Regina, because we think it's fashionable to attack government, it's fashionable to attack leadership. It's good to feel as if you're hiding behind a screen, typing, throwing nuisances, calling whoever you want to call, trolling people, putting leaders in coffins and spreading it around. It appears fashionable. But I can guarantee you, everything we do creates a reputation capital, whether we like it or not. The things we find fashionable today, applied to you 10 years, 20 years from now, you will regret. You'll have people, and I tell people, you will actually start cursing government why they did not put stopgap measures to ensure information was somehow managed. Yes, as Kenyans, we said we want our freedoms. It's okay. We do not want our internet legislated. Fine. But at the same time, we are waking up to a realization of how monstrous this resource called the internet and social media can become. But at the same time,
we will be picking up. Yes. We will be picking up.
This point.
Finish as we take a quick breather. Yes.
There are thousands into millions of young people who have mastered the use of technology, social media, and the internet for economic growth.
We will pick it up when we come back. Tonight, we are probing government's communication, just wanting to understand what Wanjiku has to say in regard to either is it public information or propaganda. We take a quick breather. We'll be right back. Our guest is none other than Deputy Government Spokesperson Gabriel Muthuma. See